Welcome. My name is Norm Newkirk, and today we're speaking with Craig Cahoon of the Cahoon Law Office. And Craig has written a book, What Do I Do Now? And Craig, my question to you is, why would someone want to read this book? Why would want to get this book called What Do I Do Now?
Well, there's really no other books on the market that's focused towards helping family members trying to support someone facing a criminal charge. And what this book does is it really gives them a basic idea of how the criminal system works and what they can do to help support their loved one.
So this is about people who have been charged with a criminal offense, right? And when one thing about the book that I understand, it's very easy to read. It's like a conversation as opposed to a textbook. So that's very easy to do, because I understand if someone's been charged with a crime, or they think they're going to be charged with a crime, there's a lot of emotional issue there and a lot of confusion there.
Well, what I find, because I've done literally thousands of client interviews over the last 15 years, and it's a really stressful time, not just for the person who's being accused of the crime, but for the family members. And for most people, this is a very foreign system. So even though we cover a lot of information during my first meeting with somebody, it's awfully nice to be able to take a book home and go through it at your leisure so that you can go through some of the concepts, because it's really difficult to ask questions if you don't know where to start.
That's a good idea, yes. There's a lot of attorneys out there, we know that. How do you know you're picking the right one? How do you know you're picking a good one?
I always tell people to look for three things. First is that the attorney understands the law, and that's really easy to determine, because just ask them questions. They should be able to tell you off the top of their head what the answer is, or explain why the answer is not possible to give, like will somebody get found guilty? You have to get into the facts before you know. Second, they have to be able to communicate, and if you don't understand what the attorney is saying, odds are nobody else does either. So pick one who's easy to talk to. And the last one sounds kind of mamby-pamby, but it's not, and that is pick one you instinctively like. Unlike what you see on TV, when you're really negotiating with prosecutors, we all prefer to work with someone we like, and people that aren't very nice to work with oftentimes won't get the best deals for their clients.
Understood. I have a question about people who have been charged with a crime and actually incarcerated. They're in jail. Are there any situations where you might not want to post bail to get that person out of jail?
There actually are. Most of the time I recommend that my clients get bailed out of jail, because it makes my job of defending them easier, because I have better access to them. They can help me locate witnesses and evidence. But there are times when you don't want to do that. One is if you're dealing with someone who has a heavy drug addiction and they've been incarcerated because of that drug addiction. If you bail them out immediately, those drugs don't have time to leave their system, and it's very likely that they'll reoffend while they're out on bail. The other issue is where a family has limited resources, and it comes down to a decision of, should I bail somebody out or should I put that money towards an attorney? Sometimes you're better off taking that money and actually hiring an attorney that's competent, because that same attorney can then take the defendant in front of the judge and get the bail reduced or eliminated sometimes, in addition to helping them with the underlying criminal charge.
I understand. You mentioned something when we were talking before we started taping, and that was the words that you speak to an arresting officer are very important, and there's something that you must remember to say to stop the process of information flowing between you and that officer. Am I correct?
You sure are. What I've done in the book is I've broken down the parts of a criminal case into their different phases. And the first one is when someone is dealing with a police officer out on the street. As human beings, we all want to talk and explain what's going on. However, in that light, you're much better off requesting an attorney or saying that you don't want to make any statements, because anything that you say actually will be used against you. And oftentimes my job revolves around getting those statements suppressed.
So what you have to say is, I want to speak with an attorney.
Yes, you have to make it very clear.
And that stops the communication.
Yeah, the law is clear on that. They must stop the interrogation at that point.
Another point that you mentioned, and we'll have to stop in a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure that I understand this. When you go in this arraignment, which is the first court appearance that you make, you must plead not guilty.
Right, and I advise that to everyone. you know, we're all grown up with our parents or with some authority figure, and as kids we're all taught if you've done something wrong, admit it, and you'll face punishment, but that's coming from a very loving place of someone trying to make you better. The court system is not that way. If you walk in and plead guilty up front, they're going to throw the book at you. Or at the very least, you give up the opportunity to really challenge the state's evidence or negotiate with the prosecutor for a less serious charge. And these charges can have lifelong consequences. So you don't want to rush into a decision that you may end up paying for the rest of your life.
Okay, so get an attorney that you trust and can communicate with. If you are arrested, you say, I want to speak with my attorney. And you say not guilty at the arraignment. Now the most important question is, how does someone get a hold of what do I do now?
Well, there's several different ways you can do that. You can get the book through my website. It's called cahoonbooks.com. That's C-A-H-O-O-N, books, B-O-O-K, .com. Or you can get it through Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Very good. We've been speaking today with Craig Cahoon, who's written What Do I Do Now? Extremely valuable information if you think you're going to be charged with a crime or actually have been charged with a crime. This is an invaluable resource. I'm Norm Newkirk. Thank you for watching.